hopefully you reviewed the making of the parametric box, because all the things we did when we built that parametric box are going to come to play now. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the big R. So to make a new curtain wall family, I'm going to go to the big R. I'm going to go to New, and I'm going to go to Family. And I'm going to load it as a curtain wall, let's see, where's it at here? Oh, I'm in metric. So you want to make sure you go to the imperial side, and you're going to do a curtain wall panel. And I'm going to click Open. So what that does is it basically opens up a template for my family. So if you're working right now, I need you to stop and pay attention. All right. So by default, those grids that we laid out, the boundary of that panel. So that panel that I'm referring to is going to be this singular panel here. When I tab through, I can grab the individual panel of that family. So those reference lines correspond with that boundary. I do not want to edit these, right? I want to leave them so they're flexible. If I go in and I lock these reference planes, all of a sudden my curtain wall is not going to work. And you're going to ask me, why isn't it loading in? And I'm going to tell you, it's because your boundary lines are not are locked, most likely. So what we need to do is we need to basically create a new set of lines over this designated set. I don't do anything with these ever, just because I've had it fail so many times that I just rebuild it completely. So I want to go ahead and I want to type RP for reference plane. And I want to go ahead and load in a new set of lines. And then I'm going to put a distance constraint on each one of those. Now I'm not locking those distances. I'm going to select one of them. I'm going to click on Add Parameter. And I'm going to call it Offset. What's that? You're gonna pick the distance. You can't assign variables to the reference planes. Again, we went over this when we did the box tutorial. Right. So again, I'm going to add that parameter. And I'm going to call it offset. So I want to set up an offset for each one of those individually. So it's going to be offset left, offset right, offset bottom, and offset top. All right, so this one will be offset right. I'm going to add another one, and I'm going to call it offset left. Another one offset top, then another one offset bottom. And I'm going to click apply so I don't lose those variables. And then this one. Now, I need to make sure that when I load this, right, so I'm looking at the exterior view. So I need to make sure I choose which one I want. So in this case, it's going to be offset left. If I'm looking in plan, that's actually offset right. So this one, it's backwards. So this is going to be offset right. This one is offset left. This one is offset top. This one is offset bottom. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to make sure that each one of these is 0. Well, before I make them 0, go ahead and hide. Not gonna let me hide them, huh? Go ahead and temporarily hide those reference planes. The ones that they gave you by default, hide them. So I click those. I go down to the sunglasses. And I'm gonna hide element. So then I'm left with my, I'll keep the one in the middle because the one in the middle is okay. It's not dependent on my boundary. And then I'm going to take my offset value for each one of those and make it 0. And click apply and click OK. So now I'm left with my new boundary line. So I'll use these to build off of. Okay. So the next thing I want to do, I know that I'm going to have one in elevation. If I'm building case B for this, in elevation, is there an eraser here? Ah, there it is. I got it. So in case B, if we're going to build out this panel, right, it's going to look like this in elevation. I'm going to have a top slab cover, and then I'm going to have my mullions. And then in all typical residential high-rise, I'll have another mullion dividing that out. And I can either make this entirely operable, or I can cut this off in half and make just this part operable. Right? Because you need to get ventilation. And then I'm going to load in another slab edge cover. And what we'll do is we're going to put a visibility parameter on each one of those slab edge covers, depending on where it gets loaded in the project. Okay. So to do that, I want to begin creating a skeleton for this project. So I'll do RP, or that family. So I'm going to go ahead and do RP, and that's going to set up my one thickness mullion. Is there anybody remaining in this lab that's not in this course? If you're not in this course, I need you to leave. I can't have you walking in and out. And then I'm going to put in the reference plane for the top view, or the top edge cover, and then the reference plane for the bottom edge cover. Right? And then I'm going to do the reference plane for my height of my secondary mullion. And then I'll put 2 in for my center mullion. So I've kind of sketched that out using reference planes. So the next part is to assign parameters to each one of those. So the same way I assign that offset parameter, I need to put a distance on each one of these. And I only need to do it once and only in one single view. So if I do what I'm doing here in another view, it's going to over-constrain the sketch and it's not going to work. When I get to the center one, I want to make sure that I load it in with the equality constraint and then put a secondary line on that. right? And then the new parameters I need for this family, I'm going to go ahead and add. I'm going to need a mullion thickness. I'm going to need a slab edge bottom depth, width, it'd be width, slab edge top width, or slab edge top width, and then I'll need one for the height of that inner mullion. Call it height of inner mullion. And I'm going to click apply. We're going to have to add a few more in there later, and more so because these side ones are going to end up with a half value because they're going to butt up against other profiles. So then I'll go ahead, after I have the parameters set, I'm going to go ahead and assign those parameters to my distances. So again, slab edge top, slab edge bottom, mullion thickness. Height here, I need for my height of mullion. So when I do my height of mullion, I can either choose to do it based on base level to the top portion of that and keep it contained inside, or I can do it from the bottom. I'm going to keep it contained on the inside. I'm going to do DI for distance, and then that last portion will get a height of inner mullion. Once I have all of that, what I want to do is I want to begin changing some of those values to make sure that everything flexes. Why are you so late? Okay. I want to go ahead and I want to make sure that these are moving and they're not breaking. So I'm going to go ahead and change its value to be 3 feet. Make the slab edge 1 foot, bottom one 2 foot, mullion thickness to be 2 inches. And I'm going to click apply. So if that works and nothing breaks, I'm good to go. I can start building geometry. If something breaks, you'll need to go in and figure out why it's breaking. And pretty much you'll have to delete off the distance and reassign that parameter. Right? So once I have my skeleton pieced out, I can begin laying in new data, or at least geometry data. So in this case, I'm going to need to build the mullions separately. I need to build the glass separately. And I'll need to build each slab edge cover separately. Typically, how I approach modeling this is if it's the same material, I'm going to build it all at once. If it's a different material, I'm going to split it off and build it separately. Since my slab edges are going to be the same material, I'll build them all at once as well. Right? So we'll do the mullions first. And at this point, it's just simple extrusions. I'm going to click on the extrusion command, and I'm going to begin using my rectangle tool. and I'm going to draw in each rectangle. And when I do geometry, I'm going to lock it to those reference planes. If I don't lock it to those reference planes, what's going to happen is none of the geometry is going to flex, and you're going to have to go back and do it all again. Why are you so late? Are you in this course?
No.
Do you just walk into a class?
Yep.
That's not good, dude. All right, so once I have that locked, I'm going to click check. And then before I go any further, I want to make sure that everything flexes. So every time I make a move, I'm going to need to make sure that all of these values are switching. And as long as it flexes and it doesn't give me an error, I can move on to the next one. Right? So the next one, and I can see when I flexed it. So what happened when I flexed it, right? It didn't stay stuck to that reference point. So that's why I do this. Is I want to make sure that through the process, everything is working as a whole. If I try and do it all at once, I mean, if you're pretty skilled at Revit, you can do it all at once. But I reckon even it, I've been using Revit so long, I still, do this, the slow way, right? So it's saying that it's going to over-constrain my sketch here. So I don't know why. I think it's locked to something. So in that case, I need to edit the extrusion. And I'll need to try and align it to that reference plane now. Constraints defined by highlighted lines and dimensions cannot be satisfied. Ah, that's why. Unlock it. I select it and I click on the edit button. So I'll try it again, and in this time, instead of doing each value each time, I'm going to set up 2 family types. So I'm going to toggle between each family type. So at the top there's the family type new button. And I'm going to call it A. I'm going to call it B. I can change those later. For now, I'm just going to do it so I don't have to type each time. So in B, I'll pick a random set of values. Click apply. So it's still having an issue. So you'll see that I still have an issue with that edge. So again, when I have a problem like that, I need to go in and I need just to delete off that inner line and recreate it. So it's still giving me my error here. So I'll toggle it and see where it broke. Yeah, it's working now. Okay. Yeah, it had something stuck where it, you get so many lock buttons, sometimes you get lost. Even I get lost. So the next portion would be to put a material parameter onto this, because I want to be able to change whatever material it is. I might want my mullions red at one point. I may want my mullions green at another point. So I'll select that geometry, and I'm going to go to the material category, and I'm going to click on apply material. I'm going to put a parameter on it called mullion under its material category, and click OK. I'll turn on my shaded view so I can see it. The next part, I'm going to load in my glass panels. So I'm going to go back to the Create tab, and I'm going to create an extrusion. Click on Rectangle. I'm going to lock those in place. And again, just like I did the mullions, I'm going to do all the glass in the same geometry family. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and just assign a material category now, so I don't forget, and I'm going to call it glass. Click OK. And then I want to go ahead and flex the model by selecting a different type. Nothing broke, so I'm OK. So I can see the glass differently, I'll go to my family editor, my parameter editor. I'm going to make sure mullion gets a material at this point. I'll just do default for now. And then glass will get a material called glass. I'll click apply, click OK. So now I should see blue and gray on it. The last part is I'm going to load in my slab edges. So my slab edge is going to act differently than the mullion. It's going to go all the way out to the edges. So I'll load a rectangle from the edge boundary to the edge boundary here. I'm going to go ahead and create. I'm going to make an extrusion, and then I'll finish off my slab edges, or my slab edge covers. Flex that model. Then I'll assign a material to that, or material parameter to that as well. And I'll call it slab edge covers. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Right, so I want to make sure then that has a material as well. And I'll duplicate my default, and I'm going to call it slab edge. And I'm going to give it a different color so I can designate the geometry differently. I'm going to click apply and click OK. Right, so that sets up the panel. Now the one thing we didn't do, right, is we handled this in elevation. Right, so I need to handle this now. I need to assign depths to it because glass is offset a little bit on the mullions. The mullions stick in a little bit because you need a little bit of structural element to hold that glass. The slab edges are going to protrude out in some cases where you're going to want to handle this. Remember, there was A and B, right? So there's going to be cases where the slab edge needs to go out farther than the actual glass plane itself. So we need to set up all that relationship in this family as well. So once I get my base elevation penciled out in this, I want to go ahead and go to the reference level. And you'll see by default, everything was extruded to be 1 foot, right? Because by default, Revit gives it at 1 foot. So what I want to do now is I know that this is my exterior view, right? And this is my boundary line. What I'll want to do is I want to load in, if I do RP for reference plane, I'm going to make sure that I have my slab edge at some distance to the outside of the building. I'll need a width for my mullion, or a depth for my mullion. And I'll do those independent of this line here, of that exterior break, similar to the way I did it in the elevation view of this family. And then I'm going to need a thickness of the glass. So I should have 2 reference planes on the exterior of my family beyond this front line. It's called front line. And then I should have 4 other reference planes behind that. Okay. All right, so this one, I'm going to have 2 offset values. One's going to be an inner offset for the mullions. Another one's going to be an outer offset for the slab. So I'm going to go ahead and add a parameter for slab edge offset from face. I'll add another one and call it, what would we call that full assembly? Curtain, well, let's call it mullion offset from face. Now I'll click apply. I'm also going to need a glass thickness. And I'm also going to need a mullion depth. And I'm going to go ahead and click apply and click OK. And then I'm going to do the same thing that I did in elevation. So you want to be very careful because we've already set up this elevation with parameters. So if I go in and I don't see those parameters in my floor plan view, if I go and say, oh, where'd they go? which is common to do, and I go ahead and apply that and try and lock it or assign a parameter, you're going to get this warning that says locking this dimension would over-constrain the sketch. What that's saying at this point is that I've already assigned this and already constrained a parameter to it, right? So we won't be doing any of the vertical lines in this view. We'll be doing only the horizontal lines. So I'm going to do DI for dimension, and I'll do my offsets first, right? So one will be offset, slab edge offset from face, and then this one will be mullion offset from face. I also, you know what, I forgot to add in. I need to add in one other parameter. That parameter is going to be slab edge thickness. No, sorry. I understand that there will be a lot of lectures on Wednesday nights. Unfortunately, you did choose to take this class, so you were required to be in this class. All right, so I need a parameter called slab edge thickness, and I'm going to click OK. I'm going to click Apply. I'm going to do DI for dimension, and I'm going to give that value the slab edge thickness. Now the remaining ones, it's really an order of operations, because I'm going to set up the mullion depth first. Oh, and then I'm going to need one other variable called glass inset. Right, so we'll do the mullion depth and the glass thickness, and we'll do that last parameter. Right, so I'm going to do DI, and it's going to be the two outer lines are going to be my mullion depth. The two inner lines will be glass thickness. And then my last parameter is going to be the inset for that glass, because glass is inset a certain value. So I'll go ahead and do one last parameter called glass inset. And then how I get the glass to move, since it's insetting from the face of the exterior, which is on this side of that front level, I'm going to go ahead and do it from the mullion depth of the first line facing the exterior tag. I'm going to place it right there. And I'm going to go ahead and assign that value. The last thing I need to do now that I have all my parameters set up, I could flex it, but before I flex it, it's really kind of confusing, because now there's like so many things going on that if I were to flex it, I would probably get lost. So to see where it's breaking, I'm going to use the geometry that I built and use that so I can see a little bit better in the project. So I'm going to turn on my shaded view. And then I'm going to go ahead and start aligning things to where they go. So in this case, I select my object, and I'll need 2 windows open. So I'll need my 3D view open of this, as well as my exterior elevation view. So it'll be those 2. And the reason why I do this is because there's really no easy way Okay. So what I need to do is now I need to, the reason why I do this is because I really only have 2 break lines inside my views. So I have my ceiling plane and my reference plane. So there's going to be cases where I need to look above and I need to look below. So that's what those are doing for me, right? So I'll need to go ahead and select my piece there, and I'll see in my 3D view that I'm actually selecting the mullion, right? So then I know that I need to host that element to my mullion line. So I'll do AL for a line, and I see mullion depth is this line, and I'll lock that. And then I need to bring the front face of that back, so I'll click on the top edge of that and bring that back. So now I should see in 3D, I should see that move. The next part I want to get is I want to get my glass associated with its thickness. So I'll do AL for a line again. Now to get to where I need to see through the glass itself, I'm going to go ahead and toggle my shaded view to be a wireframe. And I'll select my glass and align that. Yep. AL for a line. Lock that. Then the last portion would be my slab edge. I'll do AL for a line again. Right. So in this case, this would be the profile is if I loaded this curtain family inside my slab edges of my floors. And then I would cover the front face of that. All right. One thing that's going to happen now is right now this is existing. Well, before I go any farther, again, you always want to flex the model. It flexes, nothing broke, we're good. So when I load this family in, right, one thing I need to, and I probably won't do it in this file just because there's too much going on for you guys right now, but I would set up these side mullions to have half thicknesses, because when I load that in to a family, it's going to butt up against another panel. right? So I need to cut it in half. So you want to be aware of that. There's also times where I'm going to have an end condition. When I turn a corner with a mullion, right, I need to put in a set extrusion to do that. So I need to load those in as well. And then these two, right? So these are operating in that same fashion, where I need to think about if I'm stacking this up, all of a sudden I'm going to have duplicate data over the top of each other. So I need to separate out my slab edge covers into individual pieces and then assign visibility parameters to those. And then in a certain family type, one will be on, and in another family type, another one will be off. Right? So when I want to edit something that I've already created and got finished, I can go to the Edit Extrusion button. And I'm going to go ahead and just delete off that bottom one and click Check. So that one stays where it's supposed to be. And then I need to go back to my exterior elevation view. And I'll load that slab in separately. Assign a material to it. And then I'll need to make sure that this piece gets set to where it's supposed to be. Now, because it's below, so what's happening now is we've done something that Revit doesn't like, is we've loaded it below that level line, which is why I don't see it now to edit in this view. So how I get that to be visible is I need to go into the view itself here. Well, actually, there's no easy way to do this. What I have to do is actually do it in the 3D view. I'll use my Align tool, and then I'm going to host that to existing geometry. So I'll select the front face of that slab edge and lock that to that. So this is the only case where you'll need to lock other things to geometry in a panel or a panel family. You'll never want to do things to geometry other than this. Okay, so that's that. And I'll flex it one last time to make sure that works. Thank you. Okay. All right, so then the second portion of this, now that I have all my data, right, is I want to go ahead and begin setting up family types. So the main family types that are going to get set up are going to be a full panel with everything visible. And then I'm going to have another panel family, right, another family type of this that has only the top slab edge cover visible. And then I'm going to have another family where only the bottom slab edge cover is visible. So that should handle everything in elevation for me in one family, right? So to do that, a new type of parameter is a visibility parameter. So I'll select both of those elements. And then down at the bottom, you should see a graphics area and its properties. And just like we loaded the material parameter to it, I'm going to load a parameter into the visibility section of this. So visibility and materials always have to be handled explicitly in the properties of those elements. So I'll click Add Parameter, and I'll say, ooh, I need to do each one individually. So I'll select the bottom one, and I'm going to call this one Slab Edge Bottom. And then this one I'll call Slab Edge Top. Oops. And then in my type dialogs, right, so I've set up some generic types already so I can handle my toggling on and toggling off. What I want to do is I actually want to delete those now because I don't need them anymore. I'm going to set up explicit families now, so I'll delete that off and delete that off. So now I'm left with just a blank slate again. And then I'm going to add in the 3 final new family types. So I click on new, and I'm going to call it curtain. Let's do it tutorial. Let's do it slab edge, top, visible. And then a new one, slab edge, bottom, visible. And then I'll do another one that says full panel. And then on full panel, I should have both of these checked. On slab edge, visible, bottom, I will deselect slab edge top. And then on slab edge top visible, I will deselect slab edge bottom. And I'll click apply. So it's similar to the filters as well. And now that I'm looking at a specific family, if I did this correctly, one of the elements should turn gray in the view. And that means it's there, but it's hidden in this family. And it'll be hidden in the project as well. Okay? I'll go ahead and save that family out. Tutorial custom curtain panel. Click save. And then what I want to do is I want to load it into my project. So I'll click on load. And I'll go ahead and open that up. So to get this to pump into my families now is I select my curtain wall, and if I go to edit that type now, under where it says curtain panel, I'm going to go ahead and click on the none value, and I'm going to load in, basically I'm going to pick the one that I'm going to use globally, and then I'm going to change each one individually. Because we're going to do some other little custom things with this today too. So I'm going to load it in as slab edge top visible. And I'm going to click apply, and I'm going to click OK. Right? So you should see then only this sticking out, and if I go to my detail model, you should see something that looks like this. Now if I want